Alright guys, time to show you this really fun new Necro build I've been playing this season in Season 6. Spiritborn's been a little crazy to say, really insane DPS, but some people want to play some other builds, and I wanted to show you this one. This one can actually do everything on its own from start to finish, level its own glyphs up in pit, and you can play it all the way through without needing the help from anyone else. And it's been a fun build. I've really enjoyed it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and show you the damage in a Torment 4 boss scenario. I believe they have roughly about, 5-6 billion life estimated. Yeah, I mean, you can easily deal with bosses. This build, not an issue. Alright, so this build is basically exactly the same off the Bloodwave Necromancer in-game guide on max roll. Pretty much it was just theory crafted at the time I kind of went through, and it's pretty much all about the same. Looks like they still have it pretty much, yeah, bare bones, but these are basically your Paragon boards that you need and whatnot. And all the gear you need. Basically what this setup is, we're going to be casting Bloodwave, and we're going to juice it by making it shadow and blood damage. And we're also going to use corpse tendrils to help suck everything in, and we're just going to juice the crap out of it so it does tons and tons of damage. So you can get this up and on board and running very early. The 2 mythics you need are fairly easy to get. Mythics are so easy to get now. If you haven't been playing Diablo IV lately, they made it way easier to get mythics. Normally I wouldn't want to do a build guide with mythics, but they're so easy to get now, so we're adding them in. And of course, Harlequin Quest is going to be our very important item because it gives +4 skills to the ultimate. It's hard to get ultimate skills, so Shaco's great for this because it does give plus skills to the ultimate. And also, we got cooldown reduction. And also, too, we're going to want to put cooldown reduction on our rings and our amulets. But it's not only that. That's not just the reason why we need the cooldown reduction. We also have the aspect here that blood orbs reduce your ultimate cooldown by 2.5 seconds. I don't have the max roll yet. Most people usually don't get the max rolls in these because the ancestrals are so rare. So be used to not having the best aspects, but you'll be collecting these blood orbs. And I'm going to go ahead and show you now how these blood orbs work. Alright, so this skill makes a mess. It leaves corpses and everything. So every time you cast this, you see we have a corpse forming all over the place, and then we got these blood orbs. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 every time you cast it. And then also about a 15-second cooldown. So for each one you pick up, it obviously reduces your cooldown. So I got about 14 seconds. I pick 1 up, 2, 5. I only have to pick up 2 to recast again. So you still have like 3 extra ones, which is super nice. But also, we're using a Runeword combo. Whenever you use an ultimate, it automatically casts the curse. So when you cast it, wherever your cursor is, it's going to do the curse right on top of it, which is huge. I know we can cast it ourselves, but curses and blood orbs play such a huge part in this build's damage. It's important to automate them. Also, too, I like using a macro. As you see, I got corpse tendrils and E here. Like, I just have it, I press a button and it clicks right click and E at the same time, so it'll automatically cast corpse tendrils too on top of where I'm putting it as well. So, like, you know, you can simplify things too by making a macro. So as you see, you get plenty of blood orbs, and you can just, this actually works really well with clearing, because if you keep running the direction that you're going, you can just cast multiple blood waves over and over, which is nice. So it does make it very efficient in clearing stuff fast. Alright, so as you can see, the blood orbs, they also heal you. So two other big important things I was talking about the curses. We have right here, Bloodworms grant 10% X, so it's a multiplier, up to 50%. So you pick up 5, you got a 50% multiplier for your damage for 5 seconds. So another important reason why we want to pick them up. So we can ramp up this damage off the charts. And now, in Diablo IV, if you want your character to even be able to do Torment 4 in Season 6, you need to be hitting for like 100 to 300 million up to 1 billion just to do Torment 4 content fast. If you're not doing that much damage, your build's going to be slow and frustrating, and you'll probably end up quitting it. So, you know, I wanted to make sure the builds I picked for these guides, they work. They're well-oiled machines, and they work well in the current situation that we're playing in. And let's go ahead and find our other one here. Cursed enemies take 10% X increased damage from you and your minions. This bonus is increased by 10% X each second they are cursed up to 40. So you got 5 blood orbs and then a curse for 4 seconds. The longer they are, they're taking 90% more damage. So that's why we have the rune word for the curse to drop on top of your cursor. And you can also obviously self-cast it as well. So you want to make sure everything's always cursed and you're always picking up blood orbs, but it just works together really nice. Okay, let's talk about gear and go through it thoroughly now. Right now, this character does about hit 90, 95 with my current setup. You know, I'm not going overboard. This is basically just like 1 GA gear, not super min-maxed, but it has all the right stats for the most part. So you can actually take this build way further. Like you see in the guy, they had over 100% double damage. I'm only at 74. So we're going to go ahead and go through all the gear. Any Shaco, great. You know, obviously more cooldown reductions, great. Whatever you can get on that, great, right? And you can also, if you didn't know too, you can craft these. So even if you don't have the certain mythics you want, you can craft mythics now at any jewel crafter by using runes and sparks. And you can get sparks from deconstructing any mythics you're not using. And trust me, you'll get quite a few that are useless, like Spiritborn weapons that you'll never use because you only use rods in the Spiritborn. Next is Shroud. Now this armor is insane. This armor is so good. I mean, I seen it the first time. Whatever, dude. You go stealth and you hit, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you see the little fine thing right there, +1 to all passives, that is huge. This adds so much damage to any build. And then another thing, +232 to all stats. So another big deal with that is, you know, kind of a sleeper OP thing that people don't know about is, so like all these damage nodes here, you said bonus, another 30% damage leads if requirements are met. So you're going to have a lot of rare nodes that you're going to reach the bonuses on because of the Shroud. So that's another very useful thing for the Shroud. Like, I pretty much think Shroud's best in slot for any build. You know, if you're playing hardcore, whatever, use Tyraels. But for softcore, Shroud, hands down, best armor. Because you get the, you know, 200, 300 plus all stats. You know, I didn't get any buffs on the upgrading the stats, but you still got all the passives, so it's huge. Next, gloves. We have, basically, you want critical strike on everything. Let's take a look at my crit is at 74. We get a little bit higher when we use our corpse tendrils, but base crit's 74. Of course, we got a good amount of life. We're just barely at armor cap. So you got a ton of life on this build, so like, you know, whatever. You got tons of damage reduction too, so, you know, I'm not worried about my armor being a little low. And you never die in this build because you're constantly CCing stuff and pushing it back, and you got a ton of life and damage reduction. And overpower damage, you know, that's optional. I mean, overpower damage, it could be vulnerable damage, it could be pretty much anything there. The blood overpower damage is important. So in this spot where the blood overpower damage is, you either want blood overpower or ultimate damage, one or the other. And like you see here, this has a huge alpha base hit of 522,000, which is more than you'll ever see pretty much in any other tooltip for any skill. And then corpse tendril size, I love that. That's super important because you want it sucking everything into the Bloodwave. So that's super important. And right here is basically the aspect that gives this so much damage is you're also making this a darkness skill. So this is super important. By making a darkness skill, we're able to access more passives to boost the damage even more for the Bloodwave. The rest of the stuff doesn't matter. We don't care about the desecrated stuff it leaves, whatever. It's so minute damage compared to the overpower damage that we're doing. Alright. Next we have is Blood Moon Breachers. Another super huge important reason that we're cursing stuff on top of the curse with the rune word is we get 145% multiplier on overpower damage that's cursed. So that's massive damage. So yeah, these Blood Moon Breachers are a must. And then another little backup we have here, you know, your second one's kind of optional. I like to use Bach Zan. So you travel 80 meters, obviously, because we're running all the time, and you get another guaranteed crit and overpower. You really don't need it, and I'm going to talk about that right now really quick. So you really don't need any other sources of overpower with this build. The reason why is Rothma's Vigor. After being healthy for 12 seconds, your next blood skill overpowers. This timer is reduced by 2 seconds each time a blood orb heals you. So basically, you're chasing blood orbs nonstop. So you're always going to overpower if you're reducing your cooldowns by picking up blood orbs. So you really don't need an extra overpower. The Runewords kind of nice because you can get a guaranteed crit, but you pretty much can get guaranteed crit anyways if you're under tendrils. But you could even do the Barbarian Shout if you want. I believe that's what they even have it on the guide. I just like using the extra, you know, in case I missed blood orbs or I cast it too soon or something, you know. But yeah, this Rothma's Vigor covers all your overpower needs. Super useful. All right, boots. Kind of obviously see what's going on here, right? 585% ultimate damage. That's basically the only reason why I'm using those. You can use basically legendary boots you want and use metamorphosis to be unstoppable, but you know, we got Blood Mist, right? So we can still break out of CC if we need to. I want that, you know, 585% extra damage, you know, whatever. Evade, you can actually, another way to reduce your cooldown if you need to, but that's basically, we're just wearing these for the ultimate damage. All right, now we just need a big fat two-hand mace because the 392% overpower damage on the implicit. We got intelligence, life, overpower damage. Pretty much, you know, there's a couple options here. Obviously, you want life. And then also crafted again, blood overpower damage, or you want ultimate damage. Then, of course, the weapon craft, you want to have chance to deal double damage with Bloodwave. And, you know, you can keep remaking these till you get like 100% on this, you know. Whatever, I got 74. You know, I don't want to make my gear look too insane. Just show you that it works as is with trash gear. And then, obviously, 2 overpowered gems for damage. Alright. Next up. Now, this amulet's actually pretty nice. I got lucky on this one. I did have to re-roll it quite a few times. You know, the cap on re-rolling your stat now is like 3,700,000 gold. And I was able to get Tides of Blood. And Tides of Blood's basically your biggest damage boost on the passive board, so that's huge. And obviously we want crit and life. And then here we again, on all the jewelry, we craft ultimate cooldown and then blood overpower damage. Or like down here, I got ultimate damage instead of blood overpower. You can do either or. Ultimate damage is going to add about the same as blood overpower damage because basically the ultimate damage calculates before vulnerable, crit, and overpower. So even though the ultimate damage is half as nothing, it gets multiplied 3 times. So basically, it's basically 150 times 3. So like 150 counts as like 450, right? So you can do either or. You can do blood overpower or ultimate damage. And then for your aspect, you can do 2 options here. You can do you and your minions deal 74% more increased shadow, so it's a multiplier to shadow damage. You can do that, or you can do the aspect that basically increases your sacrifice bonuses. They're both really close. They're about the same damage either way. You know, it's like a 80-90% boost to your sacrifices, or you can do this one. Either one, it doesn't matter. They both add a ton of damage. All right, an aspect for the rings. This is the good old, you know, if you've played Necro at all since Diablo IV came out, you know, this is always like a big deal. Like gaining 20% crit and then 40% X multiplier when you're tendrilling stuff. Huge damage boost. And as you see, it's really hard to get the best rolls in these aspects now because the Ancestrals are pretty rare. And then same thing, crit, life, you know, the third stat. You want overpower damage, but you want vulnerable in one of the rings. And my roll's kind of bad, honestly, 67%. I wish it was higher, like 90. But this is probably one of the more difficult things to get is lucky hit, chance to make enemies vulnerable. If you can get a GA one, that's great. So it'll be like 100% once you upgrade, be huge. So we got the tendrils aspect, and then we have the blood orbs reduce your ultimate cooldown aspect. And then basically you have just fill in with skulls or diamonds to fit your needs for armor or resists, and you'll be fine. So that's our gear. Let's go ahead and take a look at the skill tree. All right, we know the drill on this. You've probably made a million builds by now. You got to put 2 points here, whatever. Get that done. We come down to here, and you know, if you want, you can do Blight and get the 20% more multiplier, but it's just a little too much work for me, so I'm not using it. Instead of putting the 3 points here, I went ahead and took the 3 points in movement speed. It's pretty easy to get 200% cap movement speed now, so, but yeah, I like to be fast. You know, the faster you run, the more you can cast your ultimate too, right? And the faster you can clear, so it's super important for me. Then you just want a little bit here in few flesh, so you're creating some corpses. And we'll move down here. We want our blood mist for our basically unstoppable oh shit button. And then leave corpses behind too as well. And then we got necrotic fortitude. Lucky hit, up to 20% chance to grant yourself barrier for 7% of your maximum life. Yep, this build basically fortifies always up, and you're going to get damage from it. Makes you tankier, awesome stuff, right? And then also Titan's Fall, huge. While fortified, you deal 24% more damage. As you see, everything's at 4 because of this super awesome armor. I mean, all these passive adds like a ton of damage from the Shroud. That's my favorite armor in the game now. I use it on every build, pretty much no matter what. Alright, you deal 12% increased damage for 6 seconds, so every time you cast tendrils, you're popping off with some more damage. Close enemies take more damage from you. Got points in that. And death's approach, movement speed I was talking about earlier. Your lucky hit chance, so you want some lucky hit chance, right? So we can get our vulnerability up, because the tendrils only does vulnerability for 3 seconds, right? You got like it's like 3 seconds out of every 10 seconds, so you definitely need that vulnerable chance on that ring to close the gap, so you have more vulnerability up at all times, because that's a huge source of damage. Here we got 4 points and, you know, more damage to the curse enemies, obviously. You don't even need any points in curses because the pants do that for you. Then while you're healthy, your blood skills do 24x more damage. Huge. You have your points in that. And Tides of Blood, this is the biggest one. So every point in Tides of Blood gives you a 5% more multiplier to your overpower damage. So we got 3 points in it, plus 1 from the Shroud, and 4 from the Amulet. So we got a total of 40%. Pretty much any blood overpower build is going to be maxing out Tides of Blood for the more juice. Any excess points, obviously put them in corpse tendrils to reduce the cooldown. But we have so much cooldown reduction already. We're at like 5 seconds, so it's pretty much up whenever you need it. And obviously you make them vulnerable. When the corpse is formed from your skills or your minions fortify, so this is like all your fortify, you're just always going to be max fortify if you're playing the game. And here's where the aspect that makes it a shadow skill comes into effect. So we're also going to get damage from these shadow passives. So, damaging with darkness skill, so anytime it does damage, you get more movement speed. In the gloom, enemies, when you damage enemies with your darkness skills, they take 8% increased shadow damage from you and your minions for 2 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. You get another 24% from gloom. And you deal 12% increased shadow damage to enemies who are slowed or chilled. So our curse is always slowing. So another more multiplier from terror. All right, moving on down to good old Bloodwave. Obviously, this is our main point of damage. So you get another damage reduction for casting it, which is nice. These behind 6 blood orbs. I think it's only 5. Maybe it does leave behind 6. I've only ever seen 5. Maybe it's a bug. Alright. You deal increased damage after casting ultimate skill. So basically, it has 3 waves. Your first wave's always your weakest hit. And your second 2 waves do a lot more damage. So basically because your tendrils pick up, and also the aspect on your weapon adds more damage for the second 2 hits. Sacrificing all your stuff gives you an 8% bonus. Huge. We always have points in that. Increased damage reduction when you have no minions. So, like I said, this is just full of damage reduction everywhere in this build. So, whatever. You know, you're not completely capped in resist or armor or whatever. You'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it too much. When you're healthy, you gain 16% increased critical strike. So, yep, that's another huge thing. We want points in that. And then we have our Rothma's Viger. Alright. Let's go ahead and look at our weapon again real quick, because I forgot to talk about the aspect on the weapon real quick. Fires 2 additional waves, dealing 228% or normal damage. So basically, your first wave does normal damage, and your second 2 waves have another 228% added on top of it. So that's why your second 2 waves hit for even more. Alright, let's talk about Book of the Dead. So we're going to sacrifice Reapers. So we get a 20% more multiplier on shadow damage, thanks to that one aspect. As you see, we're mega juicing here. This build just shits damage. It's really nice having that aspect. Skeletal mages, sacrificing, you get 30% more overpower. And golems are sacrificing for 35% more increased critical strike damage. And there you go. That's the build. I'll go ahead and pull up the Paragon board so you can take a look at it, because it is a little different. They haven't updated it on max roll yet, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you get so many Paragon points now, you're just going to be throwing points anywhere. You just want to make sure that you have your frailty board. And these are the glyphs you want to use. Dominate, Sacrificial, Abyssal, Exploit, and Control. And you can also change out Essence if you want. You can use Essence instead of Exploit if you want. This is another really good one. So, like, there's basically the six you want to use in between these 6 here. Second board, we're going to want Bloodbath. Third board, we want Blood Begets Blood. Obviously, Bloodbath, 70% more overpower damage. This Dominate Glyph's your biggest one. Like, it adds a ton of damage. It's 474% overpower damage. And our last board, you want Flesh Eater, Consuming Corpses grant 40% increased damage. This is the buff you're going to least likely to have, because you don't eat corpses that much. And there's another one you can swap it out with. This one isn't mandatory, but you know, you're basically your 5th board is whatever you feel like is going to work best with the build. And some of the buffs are really nice, like right here, Abyssal. Once you level Abyssal up, you get 242 bonus to all rare nodes. Like, you're getting 495% overpower damage from this one, and another bonus 239. Like, that's huge buff. So yeah, leveling your glyphs up, you can get tons of damage now. Plus, it's also important to get your glyphs to 45, obviously, which you can do on your own, no problem. You're able to start doing pit 45 and 65 as you build up. Your character will be able to do enough damage to keep advancing in pit, so it won't be a problem. Alright, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this little quick build talk. I guess I'll go ahead and go do some pit, just so you can see what it can do in pit. I'll just jump into pit 85 real quick. Hopefully they balance this out a little better too, because it's like only Feels like only if you have the absolute best possible gear with a really premium beer or really premium build, you can only do like pit 100, if even that at all. Obviously, everywhere you go, it's all like Spiritborns are everywhere. What a mess. The monsters right here. This is the rest, huh? Not gonna do this whole thing because it takes forever, but there you go. As you see, you can do pit 85 no problem. Alright guys, thanks for watching.